Hello, class. I hope you guys are ready to get into it today, but we're going to talk about the sociological imagination. We're going to start off with just some learning objectives, what I hope that you learn by the end of the lecture today. The first is that I hope that you can grasp the complexities of the sociological imagination, including what it is, who coined the term, and what kind of situations, what kind of social things that this concept can apply to, which, spoiler alert, is everything. So, and then hopefully you will be able to apply your sociological imagination by the end of this lecture. And I'll be introducing an assignment in which you'll be evaluated in these things at the end of the lecture. So, and I want you guys to look at this picture of the elephant and kind of keep it in your mind while we are talking about the sociological imagination. So, as you can see, you have multiple people around the elephant who are blindfolded, and each person is saying a different thing about a different part of the elephant. So, just kind of keep that in your mind, ruminate on it, and we'll come back to it after we've discussed what the sociological imagination is. So, the sociological imagination was developed by C. Wright Mills, who is an American sociologist. He's pretty famous, actually, in the field. If you think of sociology, that's probably one of the main theorists that come up. He's also written things about the power elite and the military-industrial complex. But his most important work, I would think, and what we are talking about today is the sociological imagination, which is the basis for everything that we do in sociology now. So the SI, which is just an abbreviation for the sociological imagination, is being able to look at the social world from different imaginative perspectives. And C. Wright Mills thought sociologists were unique in this fact because they have more of the ability to step back and look at the social context of situations instead of just focusing on individual experiences. Specifically, Mills said that there were two parts of this sociological imagination. That is the individual or the biography and the historical context. And this right here is just a picture of good old Mills back in his heyday. So the first part is the individual or biography. It's about personal experiences, how people interact with each other, your memories, your beliefs, everything like that can influence your way of thinking, and how these may actually reflect greater societal problems, which we'll get into with the history part. But I think this graphic explains it pretty well. So you have the one red individual who is connected to others, but has his own or her own or their own experiences that shape the way that they interact with the world, shapes the way that they believe things happen or what the greater context of how the world works. The second part of the sociological imagination is the historical aspect. So the whole idea is that history has played some part into where we are today. And you can kind of look at this with the founding fathers. Like if George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, everyone didn't come over and create the system that we have in place now in the United States, our lives would be so much different. So history plays a part in what we know to be true today. It plays a part in our institutions. It plays a part in our everyday lives in a way. And an important part of this is the institutional context. And institutions can be defined as great things that have influence in our society. So the media is an institution. The economy is an institution. Education would be considered an institution. But I just want to go back to this picture now. So can anyone tell me how they think that this picture represents the sociological imagination after knowing the individual and the historical context and kind of the greater societal context? Alex?
Each of them are using their own perspectives instead of seeing the bigger picture.
Right, exactly. So each of these people has a different idea of what this elephant is because they're only focusing on one aspect. They're not using their sociological imagination to step back and kind of look at the whole picture. Good. Very good answer. So I have an example, which is poverty. So there is a large belief that poverty is caused by the individual. So individual laziness, individual criminality, individual drug addiction is what causes people to be in poverty. and what causes poverty to persist. And there's even this line of theory that says that poverty is by choice. So people choose to be in poverty so that they can stay on welfare systems and things like that. And this belief is usually gained through people's individual interactions with the poor or through institutions like the media. And I'm sure you guys could think of a whole other examples of how our ideas can be influenced. But for now, I would like you just to think about the greater societal impact, which is what we're moving on to. So poverty is actually rooted in history. So there have been many reforms to certain aspects of our current system. So welfare reform in the 1990s completely changed the way that we see poverty today. It changed who can receive benefits like the TANF benefits, and this poverty actually has great social implications. So the greater number of people that are below the poverty line in the United States can make it seem like the country can be more impoverished. Or if you think about certain African countries, the one thing that you think of is poverty, although that might not necessarily be true, but it's these things that shapes our perceptions about certain countries and certain economies. So another example is when we had those very negative temperatures in December, people were actually on the streets that were homeless, that were freezing to death. And I have just a little brief video of a man accounting for his friend that he found frozen to death on the sidewalk. And that did not work. Yay.
A heartbreaking discovery as frigid temperatures hit Kansas City.
A homeless man returns to find his friend frozen to death on a night they both struggled to stay warm. 41 Action News reporter Andres Gutierrez has their story.
Another frigid night in Kansas City's homeless seek warmth, be it through the heat of a fire, a hot meal, or a warm beverage. The bitter cold brings consequences that are at times deadly. James McLaughlin is now dealing with the aftermath. He's holding back his tears as he remembers his friend of more than 20 years, Reggie Glenn, who died of exposure on New Year's Day.
He's dancing in the clouds.
McLaughlin says the two of them had sought refuge from the elements in a shed in the West Plaza, although the insulation and the piles of blankets they had simply weren't enough to keep his friend warm. McLaughlin made the grim discovery that evening.
We had one eye open and one eye closed. I thought he was looking at me, so I kicked his foot and didn't respond. I looked at him, I picked him up, and he was frozen, so I sat him back down.
As McLaughlin warns, he carries on with the help of people like Tammy Eldridge, the owner of a Westport flower shop.
He comes in about every day, walks by, waves, says hey.
For the last 2 years, she's made sure that when the temperatures get extreme, McLaughlin has somewhere to turn to.
They're all somebody's child, and I think about it every time I see one of them walk by, that there's somebody's child out here on the street that's cold, that's hungry.
In Kansas City, Andres Gutierrez, 41 Action News.
All right,
The piles of blankets they had.
On that video, you can see that poverty can have great implications for all of us. So it can have great implications for our society with people freezing to death on the side of the street. But to wrap up, C. Wright Mills, actually I think I had a, yeah. So, sorry. And this idea of poverty can actually be caused by greater institutions like capitalism. So the whole idea of capitalism is that there are winners and there are losers, and those who lose end up poor or end up impoverished. But to sort of wrap up, C. Wright Mills did the sociological imagination that has two parts, the individual and the history, and you can kind of look at poverty beyond the individual and see how, and this is the process of using your sociological imagination, by looking past the individual to greater societal constructs. And then any more examples, but we're going to skip that now for sake of time. And then the assignment is to take a concept, apply the sociological imagination to it, maybe it was the one that you just said in class, and write a 1 to 2 page essay, and I specifically want you to state the individual context and then the greater historical, social and or institutional context of this issue. And this is a very important concept that's going to be used throughout the course. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop by my office hours or email me. I will be very happy to answer those questions.